Karoline adjusted the lapel of her tailored navy blazer as she stepped into the opulent lobby of the Jefferson Hotel in Washington, D.C. The evening air was crisp, and through the tall, arched windows, the city lights danced like stars on earth. Inside, the grand lobby buzzed with the low hum of refined conversation and the clinking of crystal glasses. It was the night of a highly anticipated political gala, a fusion of power, style, and subtle yet ever-present rivalry. For many, it was just another event on the social calendar. For Karoline, it was the beginning of a transformation she had long yearned for. For years, Karoline had built her reputation as a consummate press secretary for a conservative administration. Her public image was as meticulously crafted as the speeches she delivered. Sharp, measured, and unyielding. Her colleagues admired her poise and determination, but few knew of the secret that lay buried deep within her heart. A passion for music that had once defined her. In the quiet moments of her youth in New Hampshire, long before the relentless demands of political life had taken over, Karoline had found solace in the delicate notes of an old piano tucked away in a humble church. It was there that she had first discovered the magic of music, its power to evoke emotion and reveal truths that words alone could never convey. Tonight, however, that part of her had been locked away for too long. As she navigated the lavish interior of the Jefferson, her mind was filled with memories of a time when music was her refuge, a time when she was free to be vulnerable and unguarded. The grandeur of the hotel and the palpable excitement in the air stirred something deep inside her, a longing to reconnect with the person she once was. The gala had attracted an eclectic mix of Washington's elite, political heavyweights, influential media figures, and celebrities known for their sharp wit and even sharper opinions. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the subtle undercurrents of political rivalry and cultural debates. Among the throng of well-dressed guests, one figure stood out: Dylan Carter, a renowned American pianist celebrated for his emotive performances and a certain charismatic arrogance. Dylan had long been a darling of the liberal arts scene. His reputation was built on a blend of undeniable talent and a penchant for theatrics, and tonight he was in fine form. As Karoline made her way toward a quiet corner to catch her breath between interviews, she noticed a ripple of excitement spreading across the room. A low murmur grew louder as all eyes turned toward the grand piano situated in an elegant alcove of the lobby. There, emerging from the shadows with confident strides, was Dylan. His eyes sparkled with mischief and challenge, and his smile, infamous for its cocky assurance, hinted at a plan that was about to unfold. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," the event's host announced, his voice carrying easily over the ambient music. "Tonight, we have a special treat, an impromptu musical showdown that promises to blend the worlds of art and politics." Before anyone could fully comprehend what was happening, Dylan cleared his throat and, with a voice both suave and provocative, called out, "I've heard whispers that our very own press secretary has a hidden talent beyond crafting speeches. Karoline, is it true that you can play the piano? Or is it just another political gimmick?" A ripple of laughter and murmurs swept through the crowd. Phones were quickly raised, their screens lighting up with live video as the challenge echoed across social media. For a moment, the normally dignified ambience of the gala transformed into a charged arena of anticipation and daring. Karoline's heart pounded in her chest as every eye in the room fixed on her. The challenge was simple, yet its implications were profound. For years, she had meticulously maintained a public image that left no room for vulnerability. A carefully curated blend of intellect, strength, and unwavering loyalty. But behind that polished exterior, the memories of her youth in New Hampshire whispered to her. She remembered afternoons spent in a small, unassuming church, the worn keys of an old piano guiding her fingers as she discovered a language that was uniquely her own. In those moments, she was not a press secretary or a political strategist. She was simply a young woman in love with the art of sound. But the world of politics had taught her that passion could be a liability. In a realm where every personal detail was scrutinized, there was little room for the messy, unpredictable nature of genuine emotion. And yet, as Dylan's words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown at her feet, Karoline felt a stirring within her. a call to reclaim that long-dormant part of herself. For a long moment, she stood rooted to the spot, the weight of expectation and fear mingling with a burgeoning sense of determination. The flash of cameras, the buzz of smartphones, and the expectant silence of the crowd all pressed down on her. But beneath it all, there was a single, clear thought. It was time to let her true self shine. With deliberate grace, Karoline stepped forward. Her voice, calm yet resolute, cut through the ambient noise. "I'd like to show you what I can do," she said softly, yet with a conviction that resonated like a promise. All eyes shifted as Karoline approached the grand piano. The instrument, a gleaming piece of craftsmanship with a history of its own, seemed to pulse with anticipation. The very air around it vibrated with the possibility of something extraordinary. As she pulled out the chair and settled before the keys, Karoline closed her eyes for just a moment, an inward breath to summon the strength of all those years past. In that brief, silent pause, memories of her childhood in New Hampshire flooded her mind. She recalled the gentle patter of rain against the stained glass of the small church, the soft glow of candlelight illuminating the worn wood of the piano, and the tender encouragement of a voice long ago that had whispered, "Don't let anyone take away what makes you you." It was a memory of pure, unadulterated passion. A time when music was not a secret to hide but a joy to share. Slowly, she laid her fingers on the keys. At first, the notes were tentative, a cautious exploration of a language she had not spoken aloud in years. But as the first chords of Blue Horizon began to fill the room, something remarkable happened. The music swelled, each note growing in confidence, until it was a torrent of sound that carried with it every ounce of her suppressed passion, every bit of her hidden soul. The melody unfolded like a story, a narrative of struggle and triumph, of heartache and healing. With each passing measure, Karoline poured not only her technical skill into the performance, but also her emotions, her dreams, and her defiance. The music was her voice, speaking louder than words ever could. It was a declaration that she was not defined solely by her political persona, but by the entirety of who she was, a woman of depth, complexity, and undeniable talent. In the midst of the performance, the energy of the room underwent a dramatic shift. What had begun as a playful challenge had evolved into an intimate and profound moment of revelation. The guests, who had arrived expecting a mere spectacle of political theater, now found themselves transfixed by the power of Karoline's music. Even Dylan Carter, who had been so eager to provoke and belittle, could only watch in stunned silence. His confident smirk had slowly faded, replaced by a look of incredulous admiration and perhaps a hint of regret. The camera flashes continued unabated, capturing every nuance of Karoline's performance. The determined set of her jaw, the delicate movement of her fingers, and the way her eyes shone with a mixture of nostalgia and newfound liberation. In that moment, social media exploded. Hashtags like #KarolinePlays, #PressSecretaryWithTalent, and #TrueArt began to trend almost instantly, uniting an entire nation, regardless of political affiliation, in shared awe and inspiration. It wasn't just the technical brilliance of her performance that captivated the audience, but the transformation it represented. Karoline was reclaiming her identity in a way that was both personal and profoundly political. Every note that reverberated off the marble floors and high ceilings of the Jefferson was a repudiation of the confines imposed on her by a system that prized conformity over authenticity. In the language of music, she found a way to transcend the barriers of ideology and expectation. As the performance built to its climax, the entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. The notes grew bolder, the chords more resolute, as if the piano itself had become an extension of Karoline's spirit. It was a moment of pure catharsis, a surge of emotion that had been pent up for far too long. With every strike of the keys, she was not only playing a piece of music, she was rewriting the narrative of her own life. For a few glorious minutes, time seemed to stand still. The tension that had filled the room transformed into a palpable energy, a force that united every person present in a shared experience of beauty and defiance. Even the most hardened political cynics in the audience found themselves moved by the raw power of Karoline's performance. When the final note finally faded into silence, the effect was almost indescribable. For a heartbeat, the room was quiet. A silence so profound it felt as though the entire world had paused to absorb what had just transpired. And then, as if released from an invisible dam, applause erupted. It began softly at first, a gentle murmur of appreciation, and then swelled into a roar that filled every corner of the majestic lobby. In the aftermath of the performance, Karoline sat quietly at the piano, her hands still resting on the keys as if reluctant to let go of the magic she had just invoked. The applause, now a distant echo, was replaced by a renewed buzz of conversation among the guests. Reporters and political figures alike flocked to her, their questions mingling praise with astonishment. "Karoline?" one esteemed journalist asked as he approached with a microphone. "How did you find the courage to reveal this hidden side of yourself tonight?" Her eyes, still glistening with the remnants of emotion, met his gaze steadily. "Music," she replied softly, "has always been the language of my soul. Tonight, I realized that it's not a weakness to show who we truly are. In fact, it's our greatest strength." Across the room, whispers of admiration and surprise spread like wildfire. Even Dylan Carter, who had once taken pride in his ability to provoke, could only nod in reluctant acknowledgement. His earlier jibes now seemed hollow against the backdrop of Karoline's undeniable talent. As the night deepened and the gala slowly wound down, Karoline found herself in a quiet corner of the lobby, gazing out at the softly lit streets of Washington, D.C. The atmosphere had shifted, from the charged intensity of the performance to a gentle, reflective calm. She allowed herself a moment of solitude, the echoes of her music lingering in the air like a promise. In that reflective space, memories of New Hampshire came flooding back once more. The long, rain-soaked afternoons spent in that little church where the piano's voice had been her only confidant. Those memories were bittersweet, tinged with both loss and hope. They reminded her that the path to authenticity was rarely easy, yet it was always worth the journey. A soft buzz of her phone broke the reverie. It was a message from her husband, Nicholas. With a gentle smile, she typed back a quick response. "Tonight, I rediscovered who I truly am." The message was simple, yet it carried the weight of her transformation. A quiet declaration of newfound courage and self-acceptance. Later, as guests departed and the grand lobby slowly emptied, Karoline made her way back to her suite. The events of the evening replayed in her mind like a cherished melody, a blend of challenges, triumphs, and the unyielding power of authenticity. She knew that tomorrow, in the harsh light of the political arena, she would face criticism and attempts to undermine her. But now she had something far more potent than any political strategy: the undeniable truth of her own identity. Back at home, the soft glow of lamplight bathed the living room in warmth. In a cozy corner sat an old piano, a relic from a simpler time. It had witnessed Karoline's secret rehearsals, her whispered dreams, and now, her public triumph. With Nicholas and their young son nearby, the stage was set for a private encore of the night's magic. Nicholas, whose unwavering support had been her anchor through countless trials, looked at her with a mixture of awe and tenderness. "Karoline," he said quietly, "tonight you showed the world, and me, that you're not just the voice of politics, but the heart of music." She smiled, a smile that held both humility and quiet pride. Taking a seat at the old piano, Karoline began to play a soft, reflective tune, a gentle reprise of the bold anthem she had performed earlier. The notes, tender and wistful, filled the room with an intimate atmosphere that contrasted with the thunderous applause of the gala. Here, in the privacy of her own home, the music was for her, for Nicholas, and for the future she was beginning to shape. A future where authenticity was the only measure of true strength. Over the following days, the story of Karoline's performance spread rapidly across Washington, D.C., and eventually the nation. News outlets, social media platforms, and late-night talk shows picked up on the phenomenon. Headlines like, "Press Secretary Unleashes Hidden Talent," and "Karoline Plays Her Heart Out," became common, sparking debates about the intersection of art and politics. In living rooms and boardrooms alike, People discussed the performance not merely as a moment of unexpected brilliance, but as a powerful symbol of personal liberation and the defiance of conventional expectations. For Karoline, the transformation was both exhilarating and daunting. As she resumed her official duties, every press briefing, every interview, and every public appearance carried an undercurrent of the woman she had revealed that night. A woman unafraid to express her true self. While some critics argued that her musical performance was a distraction from her political responsibilities, many more saw it as a refreshing reminder that public figures, too, were human. Her journey ignited conversations about the value of authenticity, the importance of nurturing one's passions, and the need to break free from the stifling constraints of political roles. Even Dylan Carter, the man who had unwittingly triggered the revelation, found himself reeling from the unexpected outcome. In subsequent interviews, he expressed a measured respect for Karoline's talent, acknowledging that her performance had forced him to confront his own assumptions about what it meant to be an artist and a public figure. "I went in thinking I could challenge her, that I could use my reputation to create a spectacle," he admitted in a rare moment of candor. "But tonight, she reminded me that real art isn't about competition. It's about truth, emotion, and the courage to be yourself." As the weeks turned into months, the impact of Karoline's performance rippled through society. Social media was abuzz with stories of ordinary people finding inspiration in her act of defiance. Hashtags continued to trend, not only celebrating her musical prowess but also championing the idea that personal passions could coexist with professional duty. Young people, in particular, found solace in her story, an emblem of the possibility that one could redefine oneself against all odds. In colleges, community centers, and online forums, discussions emerged about the need for public figures to embrace multidimensional identities. Karoline's journey became a case study in overcoming the dichotomy between public expectations and personal fulfillment. People began to share their own stories of hidden talents and repressed dreams, forming communities that celebrated vulnerability as a strength rather than a liability. In the midst of this cultural shift, Karoline continued to serve as a dedicated press secretary, navigating the turbulent waters of political life with the same professionalism she had always been known for. But now, there was an added layer to her persona, a spark of creative authenticity that colored her every word and action. Her newfound openness inspired those around her, both within the administration and in the broader public sphere. At one particularly significant briefing, a fellow colleague, a veteran journalist known for his incisive questions, once asked her, "Karoline, how do you balance the demands of your role with the passion you've now openly embraced?" She paused for a moment, her eyes reflecting a quiet determination born of recent triumphs. "It's about integration," she explained. "For too long, I compartmentalized my life into what was expected and what was hidden. Tonight, I realized that my passion for music isn't separate from my work. It's a part of who I am. And that authenticity makes me a better communicator, a better leader." Her words resonated not only with her colleagues but with countless others who had followed her journey from the sidelines. The transformation of Karoline became a powerful reminder that the blending of art and duty was not a weakness, but a bold assertion of individuality, a message that reached far beyond the confines of political discourse. Years later, as Karoline's career continued to flourish and the memory of that fateful night grew into legend, her story remained a touchstone for those seeking to redefine their own lives. In the halls of the Jefferson Hotel, where the gala had once taken place, a plaque was eventually dedicated in her honor, a testament to the night when a press secretary reclaimed her voice through the power of music. Young musicians, political enthusiasts, and everyday dreamers would often gather to share the story of Karoline and the musical challenge. They spoke of her not only as a formidable press secretary but as a woman who had dared to break free from the chains of expectation. In classrooms, in art studios, and across social media, her journey served as a beacon of hope, a living reminder that talent and authenticity know no boundaries. Karoline's legacy was not confined to the accolades of her professional achievements. It was woven into the very fabric of a society that was learning to value the multifaceted nature of human identity. Her performance had sparked a movement, one where the pursuit of personal passion was celebrated, where public figures were encouraged to show vulnerability, and where art was recognized as a powerful tool for personal and societal transformation. On a quiet autumn evening, many years after that unforgettable night, Karoline sat once again at the old piano in her living room. The soft lamplight cast gentle shadows on the walls, and outside, the city whispered of change and progress. With a contented smile, she began to play, a melody that was both familiar and new, a tune that encapsulated a lifetime of lessons learned and challenges overcome. As the notes filled the room, Karoline reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The challenge at the Jefferson had been more than a spontaneous act of defiance. It had been a catalyst for personal rebirth. In that performance, she had discovered that the true measure of strength was not in denying one's past, but in embracing it fully and allowing it to inform a brighter future. Her music spoke of triumph over fear, of the beauty found in vulnerability, and of the enduring power of authenticity. And though the world outside continued to churn with its myriad conflicts and challenges, within the sanctuary of that room, there was a peace, a quiet, resolute reminder that the music within her was an endless source of strength. In the years that followed, Karoline's story continued to inspire countless individuals. It became a testament to the idea that every person, regardless of the roles they play in life, carries within them a wellspring of hidden talent waiting to be shared with the world. Her message was simple yet profound. Never let the labels imposed by society define your worth. Embrace who you are, celebrate your passions, and let your inner light shine. For it is in our authentic selves that we find the true essence of life. And so, the legend of Karoline and the musical challenge lived on. A timeless narrative of courage, passion, and the transformative power of art. It reminded us all that, sometimes, the most powerful acts of rebellion are the ones that come not from a place of defiance, but from the quiet resolve to be unapologetically true to oneself.